Since the dawn of our time here on this planet, very few things have remained consistent. The cultures we have developed have graduated from rudimentary stone and forge-based shelters to elaborate homes that we can monitor with our cell phones whilst being on a vacation in another land. We have seen traveling by foot turn into horse-mounted transportation and in turn be phased out by cars that travel for hundreds of miles in a single day at a speed 10 times faster than any horse. Our people have witnessed communication that was once as simple as plumes of smoke give way to live stream video chats that happen in real time with somebody on another continent. We have seen great advances in most of our technology that has made the old way of doing things seem obsolete. There's one thing that not all of us humans have lost our relationship with. A day that will have its place in the recesses of my brain will be November 2nd, 1993. I will not forget waking up under the chill of an early November darkness and pounding down some honeycomb cereal, then sitting at the back door of our house, waiting to walk outside. Because on the other side of that door awaited a rite of passage for me. One of the first steps to becoming a real man. As I walked out of our house, the cool air filled my lungs, and the fresh skiff of white powder snow lay on the ground before my feet. Each step taken, pulling me farther away from childhood and closer to a destiny my ancestors had laid out for thousands of years previous. On this day, I became a hunter. Armed with an old 30-30 lever-action rifle and the knowledge the men in my family and community had given me over the years. I was prepared to kill, but more importantly, I was prepared to help provide meat for my family. It's been 27 years since that day, and I remember like it was yesterday. However, things are different now. There's less necessity for hunting, with a grocery store on every corner. We live in a society that softened us to the point where we could hardly recognize ourselves as hunters anymore. But I don't think it needs to be like this. I think there is still a lot to be learned from hunting. Men learn from other men hunting. Men connect with other men hunting. And men become men hunting. We have lost a connection with nature that can only be actualized while hunting. We have lost the relationship we had with patience. A patience that can only be honed through sitting in a block of your own frozen flesh for hours on end, only to come home empty-handed and return to that same discomfort the next morning. Today, the War on Weakness will try to recapture that relationship with hunting, and with a guest that aims, through his TV show, to bring back what hunting is all about.
Well, today's guest is an amazing young man named Caleb Davidson. Caleb has his own show along with Caleb Columbus called Just Relentless. He also is involved with Wildside Outdoors here, a hunting supply store in Lloydminster. And as we're going to see, he's got a really cool story, actually, and a lot of expertise and knowledge in the field of hunting. And so that's what we're going to do today, is just basically cover Hunting 101. So that if you are interested in becoming a meat provider for your family, then let's break this down and figure out how the ABCs of how to do that. So, Caleb, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Okay, well, let's start, Caleb, with your show, Just Relentless. Can you tell us what is Just Relentless?
So Just Relentless is a new TV series that will be airing on the Sportsman Channel in the spring of 2021. That's our tentative date so far. Just Relentless is pretty much going to be focused around like the whole hunting aspect and everything, that all of the raw footage that you're going to be getting from us. Pretty much you're not going to be getting any of those phony fake angles that you see on a lot of these TV shows and stuff like that don't really show you what it really takes to be in the whole elements of everything. You know, it's kind of like you'll have a camera in front of you at 20 feet when you're taking a shot. That doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. That's not how it actually goes. And so we're going to try to bring a little bit more authentic action to the TV screens for the home viewers.
And you're not hunting deer in a fenced-in deer? There have been,
No, there will be none of that.
Okay,
No,
so it's
this
the
is going
it's
to
the
be
real
as
deal.
wild as it gets. Yeah.
Cool. And you do most of this where? Where is
So
your...
most of this stuff is actually based around in Saskatchewan and Alberta. I was supposed to be doing a fair bit more traveling with it this year, but due to COVID, I had to cancel a couple hunts. I was supposed to be going to South Dakota for turkey in the spring, but 4 days before I was leaving, they closed the border. So I had to cancel that one, so that one kind of sucked. And then this fall, I had an elk hunt booked for Utah, and I had to cancel that one as well. So I stayed home for a majority of it, and I was pretty fortunate enough to draw a couple pretty elusive tags for back home. Mm-hmm. So I was able to draw my antelope tag that I waited 14 years for, and that was a long wait. And I was able to go down there and do that hunt, and then I drew my mule deer tag at home. So
okay. And you were mentioning young. I call him young because I used to coach Caleb Davidson in hockey, but he's a partner of yours in
yes,
the
sir.
show.
Yeah, he is a partner of mine here. We started this up here pretty much last fall. We hunted together for the first time, and that's when I actually got to know Kalen personally, and we kind of had the same mindset with everything. We had a goal set. We've always wanted to show. That was a major goal of ours, was to have a show. And he's wanted it since a young age, and that was same thing with me. And so we kind of meshed with all of our ideas of what we wanted to bring to the table, and we're both diehards for it. And so we decided to partner up and create the show. And he's one heck of a guy and one heck of a hunter as well.
Cool. Well, the spending the last few minutes getting to know you, Caleb. I didn't know you till we had you on the show. I mean, you've known Tanner for a while. But I think you're a perfect fit. I've got to hear in the last 15 minutes, I mean, you've done some MMA, you've rode bulls, you've hunted. How old were you when you started hunting?
Well, so legally in Canada, you're allowed to start hunting for yourself when you turn 12 years.
So you have to say 12.
So at 12 years,
Okay.
12 years, but yeah, I have to say 12 years for when I started hunting. I always hunted with my dad since I was born, right? I could go along with him and stuff like that. And yeah, so as far as I can remember, I was hunting with my dad.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into a little bit, like, Tanner, maybe do you want to talk about maybe stigma? Like, we've all grown up in the country. All of us are Saskatchewan boys. We all grew up in the bush, and we've all been shooting since, I don't know when I started shooting my own gun. I don't know. He's young.
Yeah.
And but as the world's maybe gotten softer or more social, or what am I looking for here? The people who sit behind a computer and cut you down for everything under the sun if they don't agree with it. But do you mind just your thoughts on the state of ethics in hunting? Do you mind like talking about maybe where that's at today in today's society?
Well, and you kind of hit it. There is a softness that is in people nowadays with the idea of killing something, obviously. But I think, too, hunters haven't done themselves any favors walking into this new world either. You know what I mean? Like, there is, you know, I'm a landowner, you know, of a landowning family up north of here, and hunters don't do themselves any favors. Let's just, you know, they don't build great relationships with landowners, with anybody, because some of them act like complete idiots around it, and then you get all the poachers and stuff like that. So there is this huge stigma that comes with hunting that is more about people doing it the wrong way, when there is a lot of people out there that do it the right way. It's just like today's world doesn't focus on anything good. We just focus on whatever's bad. And, you know, and like I said, it is, the world's moving towards where we want to kill less and, you know, nurture more. But, like, meat has to die if you're going to eat it. Now, ethically, you know, going out with, you know, some sort of high-powered semi-automatic rifle and just mowing down glowing eyes at midnight with your spotlight isn't the most ethical way to take down animals. So, you know, that's my opinion of it, but my opinion doesn't really even hold a candle to what Caleb put on Facebook or the internet the one day about hunting ethics. I mean, it hit the nail on the head as far as how people see this with the whole, and the trophy hunting thing is just another thing that is, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, those guys don't do themselves any favor. But I I mean, I'm going to let Caleb explain that video that he did, which was awesome.
Yeah,
So,
like I completely agree with you on the fact that us as hunters, there's a whole lot of, I wouldn't actually say the hunters aren't doing any favors. The poachers and the guys that are doing things illegally, they're the ones that are putting an overshadow on the good hunters out there in the name of hunting, right? You can go out there and say, oh, I went hunting the other night and shot this or like that. Well, they did that illegally. You know, that's not a hunter, that's a poacher.
right.
When it comes down to it, the people that are doing things legally and abiding by the rules and doing everything right, those are the ones that need to be seen and not overshadowed by all these guys. Like, it's just like you said, the negativity in the world. Everybody focuses on the negative. They're not looking at the good. So like when this one kid that came into the store here, he was part of the archery club, and he was 12 years old. It was his very first year hunting, and he shot his very first whitetail with a bow, which is an accomplishment to begin with. And it was just a basket buck, nice. I think it was a little 4x4. And he put it on a picture of it on Facebook, and he posted it to a hunting group. And the amount of people that just went after him for, why are you shooting a deer that small? I would have let it go one more year and stuff like that. This kid was so proud when he brought in that picture to show us that when he posted it online and had all those people cut him down and stuff like that, he didn't want to hunt anymore. It just ruined him. We were able to talk him into it and stuff like that and keep him going, you know, encourage him. But the amount of grown adults that just went after a young kid bothered me to no end. Yeah. And it made me think about how many people actually are maybe experiencing it themselves that are even maybe adults, you know, that are like afraid to say that they're a hunter or afraid to even say or post a picture of something that they've shot because of the amount of hate that they might get from it. Mm-hmm. That shouldn't be. If you're proud of something, post it. Yep. It doesn't matter if it's a forkhorn, if you're hunting for meat, I don't care. If you're proud of something as a hunter, I think all of us as hunters should be supportive of everyone because we're a dying breed. Yep. So like we need to get more kids going. We need to encourage them. It doesn't matter if you shoot the world record buck or if it's a first-year spiker. It's meat. Mm-hmm. It's meat, man.
Yep. So you're talking about how it went viral. If something, what went viral? Was it a video?
The video went viral. It went all over Facebook. I was getting messages from guys in Missouri. I did a podcast with the guys in Missouri about it. It went all over the place. Like I had guys message me from Texas, all over the place. It was shared, shoots. Couple thousand times. It was just under 500,000 views.
No kidding. How do we find that? How do people find that?
You can find it on my, I believe it'll be on my Facebook page there. I have it shared, and there's a whole lot. I don't know how.
Just Relentless. So if they go
actually, it's not under Just Relentless. I didn't post it to Just Relentless. It was just my personal account that I just did a video up.
And you're okay if people go to your personal account
and look at that? Once we get ours fired up, I'll share it.
Oh, we'll share it. Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
We can even put it on the YouTube one.
So maybe you have so much more experience with this. I can describe my own, and you tell me maybe if you could expand on that from your own personal experience. Is a lot of people, if they buy their roast at Superstore, that's okay. Yeah. But if you go and shoot your own animal or butcher your own animal, you're a beast.
You're an animal. Yeah.
And for me personally, we
have animals.
Yeah, we are animals. Yeah, you got it right. Bang on.
Everything that they say we are.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
But I can speak, for example, the beef that we just had butchered a week and a half ago. It's sitting in our freezer, and my kids fed and watered those things every day. And when we have it, we respect it. And same with hunting. You're connected to nature. You see it. My first year, I actually had a tear in my eye. It connected me to my food and made me respect my food instead of just buying a strip loin at the Superstore, and somehow that makes me a better person than shooting my own meat.
Yeah, you get a whole nother view of it, right? Like you get to personally experience what it takes to harvest that animal, right? Like a lot of people will go their whole lives eating burgers and steak and stuff like that and not really understand what went into it. Mm-hmm. With us, we go out there, we're cutting up that meat. We're the one who's actually having to put that animal through death in order to get that meat. We're taking that responsibility on. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people can go through their lives so naive at it and be okay with it. I'm not. I like to know where my meat's coming from. My family, we grew up raising cattle. I know where my meat came from. I maybe not the one killing that cow, but I knew where it was coming from. A lot of them maybe even had names, but you know, like
That's so true.
we that's what we grew up with,
Yeah.
right? And so a lot of people that don't understand this lifestyle may look at us and be like, "Oh, you're just a killer. You're an animal. Why are you taking that animal's life?" Whatever like that. But yet they can go to McDonald's and get a burger and feel okay with it.
Yeah, or wear leather shoes.
Or wear leather shoes or anything like
Yeah,
that.
anything like that.
Something had to die for that. But us as hunters, this is the way that I look at it, is I'm taking on that responsibility of harvesting that animal. I know that what I'm about to put that animal through. I am prepared to put it through that, but I also am proficient with every weapon that I'm going to use for it. Whether it be a bow, a rifle, muzzleloader, it doesn't really much matter. I'm going to make sure that I am as proficient with that piece of equipment that I'm about to use to take that life so it's as quick and ethically as possible. That's the way I go through it with everything, just because of the fact I don't want it to be a long death. If there's something that, if I wound an animal, man, that eats at you more than anything in the world, man.
So maybe the people that are listening, that they've maybe don't bow to social pressure and give it a try. Like, is that maybe it's not for everybody, but for me, doing it with my sons or my daughter, that's a bonding experience.
I think everybody should try hunting at least once before they have a negative opinion of it. Go out there, sit with somebody, sit in a tree stand, sit in a ground blind, go try it. Like, if you're going to be out there and experiencing the outdoors, you're going to see one of the reasons why we do what we do. Because when we go out there, we're sitting and we get to see these animals in a whole nother aspect that people will never see in their entire lives. We're going to see these animals behave way different than people ever will in their entire lives. Like, there's so many things that they're missing out. You're going to miss out on the sunsets, the sunrises, some of the most beautiful scenery you'll ever see in your entire life. Sure, you can go and hike, but you're not going to also see the animals interact with you the exact same way. And it's a beautiful thing. And when you can connect that with your hunting experience, there's nothing better. Absolutely nothing better.
Well, and the thing is, too, is people think you just go out there and start killing everything. It's
No,
like,
you don't. There's a lot of work.
you should see how many animals they haven't killed. You know what I mean? Like, nobody talks about the ones that you didn't go at. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of, we talked about this previous. There is a bit of a selection process, especially for the meat hunters. I guess there is a selection process for the trophy hunters, too, I guess. But, you're not typically going after, just everything. You're going out there with, and especially like when I grew up, we kind of followed a bit of especially with the elk, because you were trying to pick out certain ones, the older ones, dry cows, stuff like that. And I mean, it's not like you're going out there just mowing down everything you see either, right?
Yep.
So, and like you said, I've sat in a blind before 10 yards away from a deer and didn't shoot him for that reason.
Yep.
It's like, I just want to sit there and watch it, right? Because it's like, you're not going to see this, and if I kill it right now, then it's over.
Yep.
You know what I mean? People don't see that side of it.
No,
but
they do not.
And the relationship side of it as well. Hey, is for me, my wife and I have 6 kids, as we've discussed before, and we're busy.
guy.
Yeah, I'm a busy guy. I'm a really busy
You're
guy.
the grandson, too.
Yeah, and I'm a grandfather.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, I'm busy. But I find in life there's very few opportunities you have to be quiet and just talk. Between getting to the hockey arena, running for groceries, a smartphone, work,
Turning your phone
emails.
off is the best part of hunting.
And now you got to go in the bush and be quiet.
Yeah.
And just sit. And
peaceful.
And it is. It's an experience. And I don't find, for me, maybe that. And I actually find skiing. When you're on the chairlift, that's just 5 minutes, or it's just you and your son, or just you and your daughter, you and your wife. And those are probably my only 2 experiences where it's just quiet and you just talk. So no, we'll leave the Just Relentless. Maybe one more question for you is, it's coming out on Canada Outdoors.
Yeah, it's Sportsman Channel.
Or Sportsman Channel, sorry. And is there other place where people can find it?
Yeah, as soon as it airs, it'll be going on our YouTube channel. So
Okay.
as soon as it airs, like the channel has our rights to our videos first, right? So as soon as it airs, then we're able to put it onto another platform where it can be seen. But first, it'll go onto a channel first.
Okay.
Because they have the rights. So you'll be able to watch it, and we'll be able to share it on pretty much every social media platform.
Okay. Well, then maybe if we're okay with it, we can just move into I'm listening to the show. Again, I keep using, I got to come up with a different name besides Joe Blow or, Joe, or whatever we say, but somebody that's considering this, I think we want to just say, here's the ABCs of how you can try this. So first,
like
maybe
get started into hunting.
Yeah. And so I think we're going to try to focus maybe on the meats, like say elk, deer, moose, these types, and maybe the hooved animals. So if somebody wanted to, what are the seasons to hunt? What are the legalities? What are the tags? What's the process? Like if Joe and his son or his daughter or his wife want to get into this, what's the legalities and what are the seasons?
So to start things off, you have to be over the age of 12 to hunt. And then you have to have your hunter safety. So you have to take a hunter safety course. That's usually a weekend course, and it's very good. Everybody, I believe, should actually take that course because it trains you on how to identify the animals properly, how to hold the firearm properly, all of the aspects that go into hunting, it trains you for. And then from there, you're able to buy your tags. And now there's some provinces that have a little bit different regulations than others. Saskatchewan, like whitetail, you're able to buy an over-the-counter tag for that one. So that one you can walk into a hunting store and be like, okay, I would like to buy a whitetail tag. But with a mule deer, some places it's open, general, and then there's some that are a draw tag. And so you have to put your name into kind of like a lottery draw. And if you're fortunate enough to pull that tag, then you can hunt that animal as well. If you bow hunt, usually you can buy an over-the-counter tag for that one for the early months of September on to usually into November. I think the start of November, that's when everything else opens up for rifle. So you're able to hunt a little bit earlier than anybody else. And my personal preference is early season because of the fact that the animals aren't rutted up, they taste better, and you're usually able to pattern them a little bit better, just that way. And so the best thing to do would be to start getting a course, get that course done. If you can find somebody that's willing to teach you and train you, or know somebody that has a little bit of experience, talk to that person about it. Find the proper channels to take to get there. And then from there, you need to, of course, have a firearm or have somebody that has a firearm that you can borrow that'll train you with that. And then get good with that thing. Get good with whatever tool you're going to use to hunt with. Get good with it. That's one of the biggest things with it.
Okay, maybe we'll touch on that. When you say hunter safety, where does somebody take that?
So that's a course that I believe in Alberta, you can take everything online as well as your exam. Especially with COVID and everything going on right now, I think they limited the class sizes, and so a lot of the instructors aren't actually even able to do it because it costs them money to run the course. So what they've been recommending is people go and take the course online and then challenge the exam with an instructor at a later date so they can do a one-on-one exam. So that's what they've been trying to do recently since this whole COVID thing happened.
Okay. Let's go clothing. Like, so if somebody wants to say, this year, they want to go get a deer, any special clothing they're going to have to buy?
It pretty much, this is another thing where a lot of hunters will clash on. There's some guys that'll go out there and wear plaid, like wear whatever they're going, and they'll still harvest an animal. It's whatever you really want to use, you can do. I myself, I'm a big believer in camouflage. I also bow hunt, so I like to get as close as possible to the animal. And so I wear Badlands Camel. That's a brand. It's a very good brand of camel that I firmly believe in. I've been feet from animals, and they have no idea I'm there. And so that's another thing that some people may disagree with. Some people may like to just wear their blue jeans and plaid and go out there.
Whatever, man, it's me. Whatever makes you tick.
Whatever makes you tick, go.
Okay.
Go try her out. And in rifle season, you have to wear blaze orange. I believe it's either you got to wear an orange hat, and then an orange vest, or
you can wear white with an orange. It has to be an orange or red
or something.
Whatever,
you've read something bright.
Used to be you could go white.
It used to be.
But now there's orange.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe for people that are getting out, I think you can tell me. I think if you're in Alberta, it's a little bit different. Saskatchewan,
Alberta,
like,
you can wear straight camel.
right. In
all the way through.
Saskatchewan,
Oh, you can all the way through.
I think so.
I like Alberta's rule.
Yeah. Okay.
But just be aware that the listener is there's some rules and regulations around whether you have to wear orange or not. I mean, just you can Google this and go to the
Or you
government
get a
websites.
synopsis
There are
too when
synopsis.
you, that
Right.
thing used to be
Yeah.
my favorite book.
So now let's talk about the.
It was like that's the only book I ever read till I was like 30. It was the hunting synopsis, and I think like a Playboy in about 1996 or something like that. But I read it for the article.
Yeah, they're great articles.
Yeah, they were.
So let's talk the weapon. Something we've talked about bow and rifle. Just roughly what's cost, like I'm sure the sky's the limit on this stuff, but say where the economy's a little bit slower right now and people don't want to go drop 10 grand on anything. If they just want to get something for them and their boy or their daughter or their wife to get into either or, what are we looking at? Like what for cost and where recommend, who do they go see?
Okay, so you can come see us here at Wildside Outdoors here in Lloyd. We carry the rifles, we carry bows, crossbows, whatever you want to get into. We pretty much got that covered. Depending on how much money you're wanting to spend on whatever tool you're looking at, whether it be a rifle or a bow, whatever, we have that range of prices. The prices vary on everything depending on the quality. I myself, my bow that I'm shooting right now, everything on it would be probably just under $3,000 that I shoot. And but that bow you can buy, I believe it's like $1,575 starts at.
What kind of bow do you use?
I shoot the Matthews VXR, in the 31.5 ambush green. She's a sexy rig. I can tell you that much. Yeah.
And you so that's at Wildside. Wildside is in Lloyd here.
Yes, sir.
And just kind of anything to do with hunting,
Anything to do with hunting,
fishing, probably.
Yeah, anything to do with hunting, fishing, anything outdoors. We have a very good, knowledgeable staff there. Cal Wakeland is the owner of the shop, and that guy is just a book of knowledge. Like, you can go in there and talk to him for hours, and he'll love to talk to you for hours and he is so good about teaching people and taking kids out, like, especially in bear season. He was the first person that got me bear. Like, he went out there, he was doing the baits, he was doing all of this work just to take people out. I think he took out 18 people that year, and that was before he even got out there to hunt.
So he's in the right business.
He's in a
Matches
very-
him.
Yeah,
That's what he
absolutely. He's just a gem of a man.
Really?
He just goes out there, anything to help somebody out. He give you the shirt off his back.
So is there much of a used bow market
Yeah, there's a consignment usually, and
at the Wildside?
Yeah, at
Yep.
Wildside here, we'll usually do a consignment wall, and then if somebody's looking to sell their bow and upgrade, we will buy it, whatever like that.
Yep.
And there's a market for that as well. Like, people come in looking for a used bow because they're not really ready to spend that extra dollar, especially with this day and age. Some of these bows out there have almost outpriced themselves. Mm-hmm. But they've got such a following that some guys upgrade every year because of it. So
on the bow side, let's say I want to get something that works, that's got quality, but I don't have my own hunting show. What am I looking to spend on say my bow, my arrow, my, what am I looking at?
if you're looking for starter package,
Ish.
the starter
roughly.
package, yeah, for a good one, like we don't usually carry anything cheap
Yeah.
at Wildside. Like, that's gonna fall apart on you. We do more quality over
Mm-hmm.
anything. Our lowest price bow would probably be the Bear G2 Cruiser, and that one retails at around $450.
Okay.
So with your arrows, your case, your broadheads and everything in there, you're going to be looking around like that $600, $700 mark,
And-
just under that.
Okay.
And I think too is to say with that as well is we talked about this earlier on. If you're going to kill something, you want to have a quality tool.
You do.
So you think about it that way. You go in and chintz out on an extra $100, $200, and that thing, the cams are loose or something's loose, and you would know this probably better, but the tiniest little thing on that is inches
It's
difference
huge.
at 20, 30 yards. So now you're going from a double lung or a heart shot that animal's dead in 20 seconds, 10 seconds basically, to ripping one through the guts and you crawling on your hands and knees through the bush at midnight while something's laying in the bush bleeding out through its guts. That's the difference between you not wanting to spend a little bit more money too. So think about that. Like, this isn't something you want to cheap out on.
No.
Or just don't do it if that's or go shoot at the archery range.
Yeah.
But when it comes to killing something, saving an extra $100 and then, gutting an animal or something like that, I don't think that's right.
Do you bow hunt, Tanner?
Yeah,
I have a bow, but I've never actually bow hunted.
Yeah, I'd bow hunt.
Yeah.
I just don't really talk about it all. I do, yeah. I got a mule deer last year with mine, actually.
Oh, I want to get into it. But and I suppose something else to think about is if you get a decent name or a decent product, it would have resale value.
It does.
Like if you get something that's a better quality and you buy it for $1,000, I'm sure it doesn't go to it doesn't go to $1 after you when it comes time to sell it or trade it in, or it's like you say, you have a consignment.
So. No, absolutely. If you're doing more of the higher brand names like Hoyt, Matthews, PSC, Bowtech, APA, those style of bows have a resale value. And if you start getting into the lower end stuff, and it gets used, or like also of how well you take care of the bow, that's a huge factor in it too. If you're taking care of it, and you're making sure you're putting it away properly, you're making sure it's clean and stuff like that, waxing the strings properly, that helps. That helps the resale of the value for sure. Some guys will bring in these bows that the strings look like they're about to just break on you once you pull it back. You have to put new strings on that bow before you can sell it again, and that's $186 right there.
Yeah.
So if you take care of your bow, that helps your resale value 100%. But like there's a whole market for everything there, and pretty much the quality of the bows nowadays is unbelievable. Like, you probably wouldn't even recognize your bow from 10 years ago compared to what they are now.
Really? And so now guns, I know the sky's the limit as well.
I mean, the first thing too is you got to make sure with firearms is you're going to have a license now. Like, what is it?
It's a PAL.
Yeah. So basically, if you are going to buy a gun to kill something, you have to have a certain license through the government, or they won't even sell it to you. So that's one thing that people.
So we're calling it a possession acquisition license. So how do we get that? I have one. I don't remember how I got it actually.
It's the same way as like your hunter safety. You just got to find an instructor that's putting on a course. They do a restricted and then just like your standard acquisition. They don't run these courses. It's pretty much the exact same way. I don't know what they're doing right now for the whole COVID thing. I know we take names at the store for the list for the guys that are putting on the courses, but they've limited them to, I think it's 6 people per course, and they need 12 in order to actually even break even. So I don't know what they're doing. The last time I checked, I think there was like 100 and some names on this list that I had for this instructor already. And so
that worked out pretty handy for the government, hey? The government that doesn't want to have guns, that worked out pretty good.
They need to rent a football stadium so we can social distance.
Yeah,
they can put on
kidding.
So a gun again. So what is somebody looking at? I mean, maybe it's too broad of a topic probably to get into types of guns, names of guns, this and that. But roughly speaking, just what's somebody looking at to spend to get a gun that's going to take down a moose or a deer or an elk?
That's a very broad question because you could have one passed down from your grandpa or something like that that's registered to you or whatever like that. That's not going to be as expensive as the ones that are on the wall. So for the most part, you're going to be looking around that $700, $800 mark. There's different calibers though that are good for different animals. Sure, you can use a 300 Win mag on a whitetail, but you're going to be damaging a fair bit of meat, but you're going to need that to shoot a moose. Like, the government just passed a rule for like a smaller calibers being used on big game that I don't agree with. Like, you can use a 22-250 and stuff like that, or a 223 and stuff like that to harvest big game. You got to be a good shot.
Yeah.
And that leaves so much room for error, because if you're shooting a big animal that has such dense like meat, and like, these animals are tough. Like, you gotta be proficient with that weapon and not be going out there just buying it the day before. Oh, it's good enough. Heading out. It's the same thing with a bow. That drives me insane.
Yeah.
People just buying it and not getting proficient with it.
Buying it that day, going out the afternoon, or buying it and going on a trip the next weekend without really shooting it, and I never shot it before.
Yeah.
That's the fastest way to wound an animal.
Well, and always think too that you're only. I talked to my kid about this about driving the other day. Is you're only as good under pressure as you are to the level in which you've trained and put in time. So here's the thing: you can go out there. I can set you up on a piece of paper at 100 yards, and in 10 minutes you're going to be hitting decent.
Yep.
Like not bad, right? Especially with a decent firearm. Learning a little bit, like learning some proper trigger pull, proper sighting, like breathing and that. Well, a deer walks out in front of you for the first time, all that goes out the fucking window. You're panting, you can't look down your scope, you can't look anywhere to see anything, and you're not. So then what happens is if you've only put 10 rounds through that weapon and you go to shoot a deer, your baseline is shit. So what happens is now you hit that thing in the guts or you miss or whatever, where at least if you've put, a few hundred rounds through that weapon or the bow or whatever, when you go to shoot, at least your baseline, you have some muscle memory that locks you into what you're doing. Would you agree with that, Caleb?
100%.
Yeah, so it's like the more reps you get in, the more it ingrains you to act under pressure in a more, precise manner. So like I said, when my kid was driving, he's like, I want to drive down the highway. I'm like, that's great. Until you get in trouble.
Yep.
Then you're going to resort back to zero experience and probably kill everybody involved in the situation. So it's the same thing with weapons. It's you might think, oh, I hit this, but you go out and shoot a piece of paper and hit good 3 shots, I'm good to go. It's like, no, you should be putting at least, what would you say, a couple hundred rounds through that. 100 rounds?
100, at least 100.
Yeah. Before
in the
arrows,
winter,
same
like
thing.
in the wintertime, I'm a little bit more fortunate to be able to do it because I work at a bow shop, right? I have a range access. My range access is only 20 yards.
Yeah.
But in the wintertime, I'm putting 100 arrows through that target every day.
Yeah. And
Like
that's
I'm doing it
mechanics too. Even
Yeah,
if it's
so-
20 yards or 5 yards,
Yeah.
your mechanics are starting to get
Absolutely.
ingrained into your performance.
And you can be as good as you want to be. That's the biggest thing with archery. You can be as good as you want. Like you can shoot a size of $1 at 20 yards and still get out into the hunting side of things. You can't hit a darn thing.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Like as soon as you get out there and you have that big buck, whatever like that walks in there, there's a thing that people call buck fever.
No.
Your legs start shaking and you start going there, you got to calm yourself down. That's where all these nerves comes in.
I get doe fever. It's gopher fever.
It's a different experience. It's a whole nother world out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, is there, let's say you live in town and you want to go buy a rifle, like how do you get good? Like what do you recommend? Is there clubs? Is there shooting ranges? Like what would you recommend?
Yeah, there's shooting ranges and everything around Lloyd. We have a gun club here, the Lloydminster Gun Club. I can't actually remember the name of it.
The one that's south of
The
town
one
there?
that's- Yeah,
I think
on
it's
the
just a
Highway
fishing
303.
game, isn't it?
Lloydminster
Yep.
Fishing
Yeah,
Game
that's-
Gun Club.
Yeah.
We sell the memberships there, and you can come out there and use like the range, like the I think they have a handgun range as well, an indoor range. So you can get good with your tools there. You can train up and everything, and a lot of times they'll have people on staff there anyhow that can help you go through the steps and everything like that, and teach you a little bit from here and there as well.
And archery too? Is there archery there as well?
So yeah, they do have an outdoor. They have an outdoor 3D
Do they have an
course.
indoor? They have an indoor range.
They
there
do
too.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the Lloydminster area archers.
There was one north of town for a while, wasn't there? Like there was a shop we were supposed to go to it. I think they had a club for kids even.
Yeah, the Arrowhead Archers.
I wonder if
That's
they're
actually
still-
got moved to Wildside. So that's
Oh,
run by
okay.
Crystal, and she's one of the
Yes, because that's the
co-owners
family.
of-
Yeah, they had a display up. What's the last name? He has GMAC.
Oh,
I think, isn't it?
Red Path. Yeah.
Red Path. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. I met them at a.
You
But
betcha.
so I'm sure these can be Googled or come to Wildside.
Come
you
to
can,
Wildside, check it out there. We're going to be running actually a group here starting in November.
Yeah.
And it's going to go on throughout the winter. So if
Perfect
you want to try it
timing.
out, come on in and get signed up for it, and we'll run you through. It's going to be a little bit smaller classes just due to the restrictions that we're able to have, but that means more one-on-one time with the instructor, which is good for you as a shooter.
Okay, and maybe just one other attack on this is on asking people to get proficient with their weapon first. is like you were saying, you get buck fever. It's actually hard. And so if you think about it, by the time you get your possession acquisition, you buy your tools, you put $75 worth of fuel in the vehicle, you take a Saturday out of your time. You know, don't show up with shooting your gun twice and think that this is going to come out for you. It costs some money to get out there.
It does.
So why not get good at using your tools? So when you get out there, you have a higher probability of succeeding.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So now,
and the other way too, though, is Ken.
Yeah.
About the cost point is, go look at what meat costs at the grocery store too. So, I mean, you buy a gun once. What's a license, like $38 or so, or $50 now?
Whitetail. I think I sold one this morning here. It was $38.99 or something like that.
So I mean, and you just shoot even if it's a younger buck or a doe, you're like 100, probably about 100 pounds, maybe 80 pounds of meat, something like that. At $4 a pound, doesn't take long to pay for what you're doing too.
Absolutely.
So I mean, if you're using it for meat hunting, which I've actually had quite a few people come through here and ask about, it's an investment off the start. But if you do it right.
If you do it right and doing it properly, you can make it worth your while, 100%.
Absolutely.
so maybe should we talk about where do they hunt? Like what land is available to hunt on? Legal permissions. You know, if you're living in the city or you are on an acreage somewhere, you know, you can't just see the first buck and jump out of your truck and chase it down, can you?
No,
Okay.
not really, no.
Okay, so
Some people aren't familiar with the fact you can't do that.
Yeah.
But
I know some farmyards. That's it. Putting your life in your own hands, maybe. But let's talk about that.
hopefully.
Yeah. Well, so getting around like you need permission, especially in Saskatchewan now. I believe they're moving to more of a written permission thing, and regardless if you're going on there or not, you need written permission to actually even have access to that land. It doesn't matter if it just says no hunting or no trespassing. You gotta have permission to go on there. That's the way I believe it should have been to begin with, because, well, personally back home there, we have guys going on our land all the time that have no business being in there, and they'll drive right past, no trespassing signs all the time. But
how do you handle that? Because we've got land, and I need to get better at this. Because
I don't think we can
not
talk
nicely.
about this.
How do we handle it?
Well,
you
we
go
shut
and
the
you
mics
talk
off
to
for
them
a moment?
nice.
Yeah, we go and explain to them, you
Never
really
any-
shouldn't be on
going in
here,
camera.
But yeah,
Never any violence involved ever. I mean,
But like you're saying, I think you tell me I've hunted with. I got friends that were hunted a lot on the Alberta side. And I think the old way was you had to have permission to enter any land in Alberta that wasn't maybe owned by the government or permitted to be hunted on. Saskatchewan, I thought the old laws were, as long as it wasn't posted, you could go on without trespassing. But I believe, I just looked it up because that's a guy on my land again, not rifles, he was bow hunting actually, coming close to my yard with my kids and didn't ask permission. And I'm like, fella, you better look up the laws, because I believe Saskatchewan just changed the laws to where now it's the same as Alberta, to where what posted or not, it's trespassing without permission. Yep. Is my understanding. So it goes a lot. I mean, we're all farm boys here, and we've all have land. And maybe we should talk about landowner relationships, managing that. What are your thoughts on that?
You got to be respectful. Mm-hmm. The main thing is be respectful of everything. If you get permission on something, don't leave ruts. Like if you're going on wet ground, don't drive on it. Walk on it.
Yeah.
Take that little extra step there and do those little extra steps for them. Clean up after yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're goose hunting out there, clean up your shells. Do all these little things, and the ranchers and farmers, they notice these things. If you're asking permission every time you go out there, I love that even more. Because if you can ask at the start of the year, hey, can I have permission to bow hunt or rifle hunt on your land this year? And they say, absolutely, go ahead and give her. If you're just going out there whenever you please and not letting them know you're out there, they might not know what vehicle you're in. They might not know all this stuff, right? They might even come out there and ruin your hunt because they don't know exactly who it is. You should also explain to them who you have with you. If you have a group that's going out there, tell them that. Don't just tell them it's going to be you and lie to them. Biggest way to lose permission is to lie to the person that you're getting permission from. Be respectful. If they turn you down, say thank you, please keep me for consideration for next year. Like that, it's the best way to do it, because like you can ruin relationships very, very fast by being a dick. Like, and the biggest thing is a lot of people say, well, I didn't ask permission because I knew the answer was going to be, well, then why'd you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just went out there anyway.
And it's
I
like,
was gonna say no.
or like the fact that they were too to chicken or to go and ask a question. I remember the first time I had to kick somebody off our land, I was 12 years old. It was the very first year that I was hunting. And I remember seeing this vehicle in our back field, and I remember looking at my dad and being like, hey, there's a vehicle out there. And he just looked at me, he was like, well, go get him off. And I was just like, of course, I'm sitting there, I'm just like, okay, I'm ready for this. Yeah, we're gonna go out there, and the whole time I'm just like, holy crap, what am I gonna do, kind of thing like that. And it's just, and those are the type of guys that they had permission from the landowners before, like, because we moved out there when I was young, and we bought a whole bunch of land, and these guys had permission from the landowner previous to us, right? But they didn't bother to come and ask from us. And my dad, he was a hunter, and he was building up a lot of things for me and my brother, so when we got of age to hunt, we had quality animals to go for, and I'm really thankful for that from my old man. But that's another thing you're gonna have to run into, is there's gonna be landowners that hunt themselves, and if they say no, please be respectful of that, because they might have kids or grandkids coming up that they're building something for. You might not understand it, but they do. So be respectful is the biggest thing of it, and be repetitive. Like, there might be one year that they say yes, but the biggest way to lose that permission is by doing it wrong and doing it illegally.
And you're not just harming it for yourself, you're harming it for all the other hunters.
For everybody else.
You
person
piss a
will
farmer
ruin,
off.
Yeah, one
He
person
might
will
just hit
ruin
a
it
point
for
where
everybody.
it's just, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right?
We've done that.
Yeah.
Where it's just off limits.
Yeah.
Well, we're like where I'm from, we have no hunting on all of our stuff there for anybody that's not family, just due to the fact of what happened. Like, we had a buck, I remember when I was a kid, he was a great big deer, and he got poached on our land, on our very south piece. They just cut the head off and we're gone.
Yeah.
And there's been guys that have drove right past no hunting signs and no trespassing signs, and it doesn't like it clicks into them. And we'll find deer every year shot over top of signs, and those aren't hunters. Those are just guys out there shooting. Yeah. Those aren't hunters. That's straight up poaching. That's not
Yeah,
hunting.
most of them don't hunt.
No.
They're just out there.
They're just out there
drunk shooting.
Yep, drunk shooting.
Yeah, and this is, for me, how I feel personally about it is, this is somebody's property. We care about our land. We care about the safety of our land. We care about the animals on our land. And I look at it like, listen, if you came out to hunt, there's no difference between you just walking on our land and shooting 200 yards from my house than for me, if I'm like, I kind of feel like having a barbecue in town tonight, why don't I go grab some hamburgers, just hop in somebody's backyard and throw some lawn chairs up there. And when you look at me, I'm going to kind of play stupid. Well, it's kind of looked the same way, I think, from a landowner perspective. And so if you do get that permission from a landowner, treat that relationship with respect.
Well, and there's a few ways, like you said, don't drive out if it's wet. I've actually had to go get permission. We've had good land, but sometimes you're going out, like you couldn't find a mule deer if your life depended on it in our bush or whatever. But if you talk to somebody and they give you permission, say that. I'll text you. Did you want me to text you? Some guys don't want to get texted every 10 minutes.
Yep.
But hey, do you mind if I let you know every time I go out? Do you mind? And they'd be like, oh no, I appreciate it. Like, you can make sure that you get permission every time. If they say, oh yeah, you can drive out there, don't. Walk.
Yep.
This goes back to the War on Weakness episode 2. If you're fat, walk for sure. so go walk.
You're linking the episodes.
Yeah,
eh?
exactly. It's all
get your own meat
it's
and get skinny.
Yeah, go get some lean meat and walk, you fat bastard. But no, walk out there anyway. Because he might see that sometimes. Yep. You're like, man, I like this guy. And if I've had it before, where we've given permission to guys before, and they'll come up and they park and they walk in.
Yep.
And you're like, you don't need to walk in. No, I'm going to. Because this is, well, you got to think a lot of these landowners are getting asked, especially in certain areas like our area, they'll get asked by 12, 15 people a year. Sometimes they'll let 2 or 3 on. You can make it so you're the only one. If you, you know what I mean? Just do what the other guys aren't going to do. Yep. And you will, clean up after yourself. You close gates. If there's close a fucking gate. It's, I was told as a kid, you leave every gate how you find it. If it's open, leave it open.
Dad always said, leave everything better than you found it.
Well, and here's another thing too, is if the farmer has a relationship with you where you're texting, hey, this gate's open. Do you want me to close it? No, you can leave that. You can always leave it. Perfect. Or, if you're walking a fence line and you see some fence down, here's another trick. See some fence down? Text them. Hey,
Yeah.
you got fence down on the north end of that quarter. Just letting you know. Or, the neighbor's cows look like they're in there. Write these things down. Make notes, because you can go and make that farmer an ally instead of an enemy just by doing a few simple things. Like, these are things that you can do that will guarantee that you're the only guy out there for the next 10 years. Or you can go be a dipshit and ruin it for yourself and everybody else.
Well, what would we do if we were in town here and somebody lent us their backyard for a nice Sunday afternoon, or to watch the fireworks? What would they, if they lent us our barbecue, lent me their lawn chairs? I'd clean it up, I'd scrape down the barbecue, and I'd drop off a bottle of rye on the following Monday just as a thank you, right?
And that shit goes a long ways,
Yeah. Like, for me, I hope the listeners don't take this that all landowners hate hunters. Obviously, you can hear some frustration coming out of all of our voices.
Well, a lot of landowners, like we lost an entire 80 acres to elk 2 years ago, to where the government actually had to pay for the seed for it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where you want everybody that can possibly go take one of those elk out to do it. Yep. But at the same time, you're like, we don't want to just let anybody in there because of the reputation that they've created. So, I mean, like you said, farmers want guys out there. If, unfortunately, agriculture and wild game don't really fit together too well, especially bears and elk.
And also, we're also experiencing a high rate of crime right now. So please, you pull out in a nice truck, and you in that truck know that you're a decent person out to cause no harm. We don't.
Nope.
For all we know, you're scoping out the shop, or you're scoping out the house, or you're, everybody, I can't even say it. Yeah, we haven't been hit yet, but everybody around us has.
Yeah.
And so I'm nervous. Every time a truck pulls out anywhere, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous.
We're finding dead bodies in our yard. So, be careful.
But if you pull up into my yard with, your 12-year-old son or your 12-year-old daughter, and told me what your name was and left me your contact information and said, I'd really, really I'm going to have a tough time saying no myself. If you tell me who you are and let me know your name and your cell number, if you want to make a relationship, that's how you do it. No, we're talking about privately held land, but what about government held land?
So there's like the Bronson Forest. That's like a good area where a lot of hunting takes place around here. So that's to the north in Saskatchewan here, and that's a very broad range. There's a lot of animals in there. There's elk, there's moose, there's whitetail, the odd mule deer in there, I believe.
I think some of the meadows might have.
Some of the meadows, I believe so. I think they're few and far between.
Very
more on the
few.
south.
Yeah.
More on the
you
south
might
end.
catch one in there.
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff there, and so like if you're looking, you can actually Google and find like that government land and like private. Like there's some that are like lease land. That's another thing. There's some government-owned lease land that you will have access to, but that is only foot access only because it's rented to the farmer. But you do need the farmer's permission to get in there as well. But that one's quite easy to do because after a certain date, they are removed, the cattle and stuff are removed from that grazing, right? So you're able to have access to it. And then sometimes, even when there is cattle in there, they will give you permission, but it's all foot access only. So for the most part, farmers are like, they're more your friend than you think. You can talk to them, get permission. Most of the time, they're going to say yes if you are respectful and do it the right way. The answer is always no if you don't ask. So just take that step and go and do it. Put in the extra work for it. And if you're successful, offer to give them a roast. Mm-hmm. Offer to make them some jerky. Something just like along the lines of that. Just something simple. If you are successful in killing something, please don't gut it on the middle of a road that they use or somewhere out there, because not only one, you're bringing in the predators right there. And so if they have cattle, please don't do that. Just do it properly. Remove it from out of sight. Please don't just leave your gut pile and like the carcass or like where the hide and stuff like that right in the middle where it's just like, it just looks bad. It really does.
Yeah. Again, if we're in your backyard in town, we wouldn't just take whatever we didn't eat off our plate and scrape it off
the floor. Yeah.
Right? Treat it the same way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just treat it like you would like your own land to be treated.
So if they didn't have a relationship with a farmer, then there is government land.
There is government land.
You can still do it this year if you haven't had time to forge that relationship with landowners. Now, learning the ins and outs of hunting, the strategy of hunting, just like everything else, just like getting good with your tool, just like there's going to be a strategy in hunting. That's a lot to learn. But say you mentioned earlier, if you know somebody that is an avid hunter, hang out with them.
Yep.
Is there any YouTube channels you'd recommend, or your own? You know, like or they could say like, how do you set up a bluff? How do you?
So the biggest thing, you can go online and pretty much Google. That's one thing nice about technology these days. You can pretty much look up anything.
Sure.
There's a lot of discussion, like websites where people go on there and ask questions about like, how do you properly set up a food plot or a ground blind or try to hunt a specific animal. Usually there is a very good topic where people will go on there and have a good read on it, right? Like you can learn a lot from these discussions that these guys are having. Just take your time, go through it, don't be lazy. Just try to soak in as much knowledge as possible when you're doing, when you're learning, because a little bit goes a long ways. And it can be the difference between being successful or coming home empty-handed. But you can learn a lot of stuff. Like there's a couple guys that I follow, I'm good friends with, like one Shed Crazy. He's out of the States there, and he does a lot of like ins and outs side of things, and he has a YouTube channel.
What's the name?
Shed Crazy.
So how do you spell it?
I'm not very good.
Shed.
Shed, yes.
Shed.
S-H.
Like
I'm sure
like
Google
a
will find
horn
it.
shed?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like Shed Crazy.
Yeah,
is what it is. And you can find him on everything there. I don't think he spells it any different than the way it sounds.
We can maybe link that up too. Hey?
Yeah, like
Yep.
he's very good. He's got a good following as well. There's Hush. They're another group that's going as well. But of course, if you want to follow Just Relentless, give her.
Yeah.
But
I think that would be the most.
Well, you're
logical
local.
thing to do.
You're up in the area. That's who we're really trying to appeal
we
to.
try
us.
to show as much as we can. Like this spring, we put a lot of stuff building up to our bear season. We did a whole setup video for bear. Nice. And so you'll be able to see like how we properly were doing bears and stuff like that. And every single one of us shot a bear, and that was a really, really good season there. And that was up north, like that was on public land. So the opportunities are out there if you go and do it.
Okay. How about process? Tanner, do you process your own meat?
Yep.
You do the whole thing.
Usually, yeah.
Good for you.
I grind everything though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you process it all?
I do majority. I've started at the start here. I tried to use a lot of local people like Diamond 7 and stuff like that. With the stuff that I couldn't handle, if I had too much, I would get them to process it for me, because there's a lot of times where I'm gone for a week. I got to get back to work. You know, where I will shoot something, and you'll be like, okay, I'll take the back straps like this. I can do this at home. Whereas a lot of times where you don't have time to process that animal, try to find somebody that can handle that for you. That way everything is put to good use and you're actually getting all your meat and there's no waste going on. So there's a lot of times I try to use a lot of local stuff, but now I'm moving more towards doing all of my own stuff, especially with COVID, the availability of getting into a lot of these places
Right.
is going
oh, it's crazy.
right
Man. They're
now.
Oh, yeah,
booking
no
back
kidding.
till, like,
Yeah,
February.
we
Yeah,
booked
it's
our
crazy.
cows in April. We just had them done last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the year to actually.
It is.
So no butchering. So I mean, let's first talk gutting and skinning. Do you have a video up on that of how to gut and skin?
I don't have a video up on that, but there's lots of videos on YouTube that you can find up on that.
Okay.
There's a lot of different techniques. I'm the same way as Tanner's. Like majority of the time when I shoot an animal, I'm fairly close to home. So a lot of the times I will gut the animal either in our field where I shot this animal, or if I'm close enough and it's going to be quick enough, I will take it home and we'll use the tractor to lift it up and stuff like that. It makes everything a lot cleaner doing it that way, for one. And just it goes a lot quicker. And so you're able to get stuff done as fast as you can.
So easy. So there's something somebody could YouTube again.
Absolutely.
And just learn how to gut and skin. Processing the meat. Same thing.
Same thing.
Anybody you'd recommend, or channels you'd recommend, or
That's a broad, I don't know if there's a whole lot of videos that I know
There's
personally.
a couple guys.
but there's a
if
lot
you
of
Google
guys.
it, you'll find them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's a few guys that are. I watched one guy do a whole whitetail one time. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't. It's
Isn't
not
that
like there's
something?
a ton of cuts on there.
No, there's
know.
not.
Yeah.
But,
Especially
like,
on
it's
deer.
not a cow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there isn't like 14 T-bone steaks on a deer. Like, there's zero
Yeah.
actually.
So you you wouldn't think it's something that's beyond the ability. Somebody goes out and shoots a deer with their
Oh, heck
son or
no.
daughter. They watch a
No.
YouTube video or not. It's muscle
it, yeah.
and a
You
knife.
learn it.
And keep it clean and wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
and
it
you'll
in.
eat it, and it'll be as tough as a shoe, and then you'll learn. Hey, I got to cut this different.
Yep.
Right, like learn how to. There's a way to cut meat so it isn't tough.
Yep.
Right, especially wild animals, usually quite tough due to the.
Yeah. Do you
lack
do
of
sausage
marbling.
at all or anything like that?
I grind it all and just make burgers.
Yeah. Yourself?
Yeah,
Could be you
Yeah.
a sausage guy?
Yeah, I love sausage.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're able to get like a cheddar cheese smoky out of it.
Yeah.
I guess another thing too, Ken, is if you're new to this, and there's a lot of times there'll be a couple guys will want to get involved with it together. You can buy, like, even if you go, I don't know where you would say, but shit, you can go to PV Mart actually and pick up processing. Buy yourself a grinder, might be $300-400. Grab yourself, like, honestly, for most people, go grab yourself a meat grinder, and if you're fat, get the hand one. But no, seriously though, if you can get you can get a meat grinder and grind up all that meat. The first deer you shoot, go home, grind it all up. If you need to buy a bit of pork, do it, and you can case your own sausage with $400 or $500 worth of equipment, or go buy yourself a grinder, some jerky mix, and a dehydrator, and make 80 pounds of jerky. And eat that, and that's all you need to do the first couple times you go out. Like, it's super, super simple, and there's nothing better than a chunk of deer jerky. It's the best way to do it because it's such a lean, dry meat to begin with. It makes awesome jerky. It makes a shitty steak, terrible roast. Well, unless you do it right. But
If you're doing it right.
if you go and go shoot a doe with a bow one, like, just to get used to it, cut that thing down into chunks, throw it through a meat grinder. You can buy a jerky gun and just lay strips on a
press them.
dehydrator, and like literally within 3 or 4 days, you're gonna have yourself 80 pounds of meat. You have yourself like 40 pounds of jerky, and there you go. You just killed and processed an entire animal all by yourself with some modern technology, obviously. But like, that's anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one.
Cool. Well, so Tanner, is there anything else we need to cover on hunting, or what do you think, Caleb? Anything we're missing on just the nuts and bolts of getting started?
No, pretty much just get out there and try it. That's
there
the
and try it?
biggest thing. Go out there and experience it. That's the biggest thing. See if you like it or not. Guaranteed you're going to love it. I can't speak for everybody, but the majority of you are gonna love it. And the meat itself, when you know where your meat's coming from, that's just another satisfying piece that comes with it.
Yeah.
It really
It
is.
is.
I don't know what about it. It's just,
And the work you put into it. I mean, I just made it sound super easy, but the work you put into it changes you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've done this. I'm going to admit of doing it where, you know what, I've had to throw out meat before, just, for whatever reason. That's, package of hamburgers sitting in your fridge, or maybe it's a little bit of deer meat that you had that you didn't quite get to, or a bird or something you didn't quite get to. I mean, I try my best not to do that. Earlier on, it has happened. You can go and throw out a pound of hamburger you bought at Superstore, and you don't really think about it. I mean, it's like, you don't want to do that. If you ever have to throw out meat that you've actually killed, it's a different, it's not a good feeling.
No.
Especially because you know what went into it, the work, the killing of the animal.
And you watch the
everything.
animal die.
Exactly. So
Right?
now
So
you're
you
just
gotta-
going to go throw that flesh out.
Yeah.
It's different. I don't recommend people do it.
No.
It sucks. But yeah, and organs too. Eat the organs if you can.
I'm gonna get into that. I haven't.
you
You eat
grind-
the organs, Caleb?
no.
Try grinding.
Yeah.
Seriously, try grinding them into the meat.
Maybe I should actually. That's a
and
good idea
jerky 'em.
because they talk about the nutrient density of
crazy.
organs, and I know.
See,
but maybe if I grind it up. So
I'll take my protein.
okay, so basically, get at it. Like, go get your hunter safety, get your pal, come see Caleb at Wildside Outdoors, watch his channel, figure out some YouTube channels, make a relationship with some landowners, and get a gun and go do it.
Go try it.
Hey, just
That's
get
the
at it.
biggest thing.
Hey,
Yeah, just give her.
anything I'm missing there, Tanner?
As far as that part, no, I don't. I think that was pretty good for covering the hunting stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we hit the nail on the head as far as where to start. I believe it. I mean, any questions you have, you know where to go.
Go talk to a specialist.
Go sit down and talk to the guys. Sometimes maybe there is landowners that you might know that'll, if you go in and you seem like a good enough dude, somebody will usually help you out.
Yeah.
If you act like a dick, they won't. But usually they'll help you out. But
Kind of the rule of life, isn't it? Be nice to people and they're kind of nice back to you.
yeah, to a point.
Yeah. Usually
Don't be
to a
too
point.
nice though.
And if you're fat.
Don't be a pussy.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we can probably wind this up then, hey, Tyler?
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to
Caleb?
say, man?
No, man.
We appreciate you coming on. This is really cool. Really nice to meet you,
Have any
actually.
outlandish stories you could tell us about something?
Your first hunt.
Come on, man.
Tell us
Let's
your
hear-
first
my
hunt.
first
Let's hear it.
hunt.
Your storytelling.
Shoots.
man.
I can't really. I don't know what I could tell you. My first hunt. I know when I harvested my first deer, I did that with a bow, and I remember I wore my dad's rubber boots, and they were these great big tall Baffins, and he was like a size 12 or like that, and I would maybe been a size 6. And I was up in this tree stand, and I was in bow hunting. You can usually do that by yourself, right? So I was up there, and I'd watch this buck. I was so pumped to hunt him and stuff like that, and I shot him, and I made a good shot, and I knew it was good, and I was shaking like a leaf. I was like, hung my bow up, and I was just shaking there, and I was a full mile, like exactly a full mile from the house. And I didn't even wait. I just got down from my stand. I was just shaking, ran right to the house. Nobody had cell phones, right? Then like I shot him early enough in the day, so I knew that I was gonna wait a long time if I didn't go there. So I sprinted home and found my dad and everything like that. And we went back, and we actually, the shot was good. Like the deer only went, I think it was 80 yards and died, but he run into the bush. It was a really thick piece. And we saw there was like a couple specks of blood, but it was the way that I shot him, it was on an angle. And so he was like right underneath me, so maybe like 7 yards from my stand. And so where it was and where my shot placement was, my arrow didn't have a complete pass through. And so there was no real good blood trail because it was all up top. So like all the blood would have pooled inside him. And so this was in the evening, so we decided to leave him overnight and come back for him because it was going to be cold enough. The meat would have been fine. So we came back in the next morning, and we were looking, couldn't find anything, just getting defeated. You're like, and of course, my dad is a big thing about like making sure you're making a good shot. And so I'm also worried, like also that. And I remember seeing how big this deer was and thinking, like, my dad also had a rule, 150 for inches on a deer was our minimum.
Oh.
Like, so that nothing under that got shot.
Deer
So,
like
back then though, we had an abundance of deer.
Yeah.
And so, like a lot of times we would see these 165s, 170s, and we would let them walk because of the fact that there was these bigger giants that we were hunting, and that was what my dad instilled in us at a young age. So I shot this deer, and I knew he was good. But I remember thinking, boy, I sure hope he's 150. Just being like, sitting there and being like, oh man, like, what's Dad gonna say when he sees this, like, thing like that? And I'm like, I know he was good, but the whole time I'm playing it in my head, I'm like, oh man, please God, go if he's not big enough, right? So we're walking and everything, and it started to rain, and so all the blood that was there got washed off. And all of a sudden, I heard my dad just scream, "Wow!" like that. And of course, biggest grin ear to ear. I just 12 years old, and my idol screaming for me, kind of thing, right? So I run in there, and I'll never forget that moment of seeing my dad, of how proud he was of that. And that was one thing that stuck with me forever, because, like, for one, I shot a deer, like, my whole time hunting with my dad, he'd never actually, I've only seen him shoot one deer in my entire life. And that's just because of the fact that my dad was saving all these deer for me and my brother.
Yeah.
But it had to be an absolute giant for my dad to shoot it. So I shot a deer before I even saw my dad shoot a deer.
Yeah.
And so that one was really special to me because that was the first time I got to experience that side of things with my dad. And so that one will probably stick with me for my rest of my life. But my favorite hunt was when my dad shot that buck, because I hunted with him as long as I could remember. And it was like, shoot, man, like we waited, me and my brother actually at one point stopped coming hunting with us and my mom was like, why aren't you going hunting with your dad and your brother? And he was like, because we see the deer and Dad won't shoot them, kind of thing, right? And so we were really frustrated with that, but it was just, we didn't know that my dad was passing these deer, so that when we came up, we had something to go for, we had targets. And we went up to this one spot here, this one lookout, and I remember it was my sister, my brother, and me, and we were sitting there, and we were hunting with my dad. Like, we weren't even hunting at the time. Like, and So this buck was running, chasing some does, just full rut. I remember my sister had her binoculars up and she's like, "Oh, Dad, he's nice. He's got mass. He's got like points." And she was like, "Man, he's just like, he's big." And before she could even, boom! Right? and so all of us were just like looking. We were just like looked over. It's like, "Dad shot a buck." And yeah, he shot it in the worst place possible. Like shot it, like we floored the deer, but I mean like he shot it in the thickest bush you can mean. Like it took us all day to get that deer out of there. But
Was it big?
oh yeah, it was a big one. Yeah, that was a big deer. It was, I think around like that 180-ish mark. Like he was pretty busted up on the one side, so my dad was actually kind of disappointed with it. But my dad, like, we made that meat go to use. And but I remember like as we were going down there to see this deer, me and Leaf were just like my brother. We were looking at each other like, "Dad shot a buck. Dad shot a buck." And that one there is my favorite hunt of all time.
Yeah.
That one will never be.
But look at you describe that experience. Like we're talking to a guy who has a hunting show, works at a hunting shop, has hunted since he probably, young. and you just told that story, and you could tell your voice was elevated. You're excited. Your eyes got bigger, and like that was how many years ago? And it's just look at this experience you get out of this.
I would have been 13 years old.
Yeah.
I think it was the year after I shot my deer. And that one, I've taken multiple animals, like more whitetails, a lot of mule deer, you named it, I've hunted it. And I've taken world-class animals. Like I've shot a beautiful whitetail this last year. I've shot pretty much, like everything was a good deer. Mm-hmm. But nothing will top that hunt with my dad. Like, a lot of people might not understand that because it's like, well, you didn't shoot that animal. It was like, I didn't need to. I got to experience something that was so foreign to me because I never got to see my dad shoot something before. Like, we put in all this time with my dad growing up that it was so much more rewarding. And that one will forever be my favorite hunt, like all time.
That's a perfect way to end the podcast.
Yeah.
That was a cool story. Thanks for sharing it.
You betcha.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Well,
Shut her down.
there we go. Thank you,
Okay.
Caleb.
Hey, thanks
man.
for having me, guys.
Okay. Done.